Okay, friends, welcome back. Thank you so much for joining us. So now our plan is to talk about selecting impactful BPC activities. So the fourth item on the departmental BPC plan page is related to activities and evaluation. Evaluation, you're going to be hearing from Tracy Camp in about 30 minutes or something like that. But for now, we're going to be talking about BPC activities. I'm Colleen Lewis. I'm at the University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign, formerly Harvey Mudd College. Okay, so I would love for folks to use their reactions, either the clap of, do you already know all the BPC activities that exist in your department? Clapping means yes, thumbs up means no. I find that one is a little easier to find than some of the other ones. So add some reactions. If you don't know where the reactions are, don't worry. You don't strictly need to vote. But I want to draw your attention to this piece. I think part of the work of getting a departmental BPC plan ready is just cataloging all the stuff that you've got going on. And so we made you this template that you can use. And actually the template's a little bit weird. So if you click on that URL, that's also in the chat, tinyurl.com/activitylistbpc, you're going to get a page that looks like this that says copy document. I think it looks a little bit sketchy, but that's the thing that's going to allow you to get a copy of this spreadsheet that you can share with your colleagues to be like, yo, can you let me know any activities, any BPC activities that you know about? Let's crowdsource this and add that to the spreadsheet. Hopefully you got a copy of this in the homework and started sending that out. Again, I think sending this out to your whole faculty is a good way to try and start getting buy-in, that they know some BPC stuff is going on. All right, so that's a resource available to you. I think it's actually like legit hard to come up with all the things that you're doing. And so there's this resource, tinyurl.com/ncwit activities. And it's just a 4-page document that lists possible BPC activities. And I found that this document is really helpful for jogging mine and my colleagues' memories of all the BPC activities that we currently have. I think in this first departmental BPC plan, really doing a good job of cataloging the stuff that you've got going on can help you see opportunities for shared evaluation, or where are gaps in what we're currently doing. So this is a resource for identifying, helping you brainstorm what else you are doing that you don't remember. Now, I want to address a pitfall, and this came up during Jeff Forbes' talk as well, is faculty often assume that BPC activities involve outreach to K-12 students and sending students to diversity-focused conferences. And these are totally great activities to do, but the question you should ask is, do these take advantage of the faculty member's skills and spheres of influence? So if I have a faculty member who knows nothing about K-12 teaching practices or curriculum, it would be a heavy lift for them to become prepared to be able to design curriculum or deliver curriculum that was impactful for BPC. And so really thinking about customizing these activities to meet the skills and interests of your faculty members. The second piece is related to the spheres of influence. So what is it within your power to control? And the example that we've talked about today is these departmental policies are within your control. The ways in which you teach and the curriculum, what you teach in your courses, that's within your control. And so I want to draw your attention to some practices that might allow for more impactful change because they align with faculty skills and spheres of influence. So the first one is improving pedagogy. So pedagogy is the ways in which we teach. And if I, as a faculty member, improve my pedagogy, that's actually serving all students, but it can still count as a BPC activity. And the reason why improving my pedagogy could count as a BPC activity is that there's research that suggests that particular pedagogical improvements or particular pedagogical changes have a benefit for all students and a differential benefit, an additional benefit for students who are underrepresented in computing. So most frequently, this research looks at the benefit for all students of, say, active learning strategies, and then the additional benefit that is experienced by Black and Latinx students, first-generation college students, and then women in STEM courses. And bpcnet.org has resources for you to see some of that existing research that supports that. Another great one is revising the curriculum. So when I was a graduate student at UC Berkeley, we found that students in the second semester computer science course were getting lower grades than men in that second semester computer science course. But we didn't have that pattern in the first semester computer science course. Men and women were performing equally well in those courses. And so one, tracking this BPC data, tracking this performance data was really important to help us dig down to identify the root cause of this. Maybe obviously someone's gender identity wasn't directly leading to them doing less well in a data structures course, in that second semester course. And so we analyzed data from 7 semesters, and we were able to identify that actually if you control for whether or not a student had Java experience before taking CS2, there was no difference by gender in performance. And so this extent to which you can be monitoring your BPC data to identify underlying problems in your curriculum. That was not a problem in our students. It was a problem that our CS2 course was assuming knowledge of Java. Improving departmental policies. So we talked about this a little bit during the Q&A. There exists racial inequity in high school access to computer science. The extent to which our institutions require, expect, or provide an advantage to students who have that high school experience. We are amplifying existing racial inequity. And I think it is our responsibility as educators within higher education. I'm sorry for the nonprofits that don't have students. I think it is our responsibility to be doing everything we can to avoid amplifying existing racial inequity. And we can go further, but let's start by not amplifying existing racial inequity. And I think taking a hard look at your departmental policies can be really important for that. And we've got a lot of resources on bpcnet.org to try and identify what policies might need improving. Learning about BPC, this is a legitimate activity. So just the extent to which you have members of your community learning more and becoming more knowledgeable about what are the root causes of these longstanding patterns of underrepresentation, that can be really impactful activities that improve your culture and climate. Expanding research opportunities. So Jeff talked about this one. The DREW program is a great one. And here, the really key piece is that you are engaged in thoughtful and focused recruiting practices to broaden participation with these undergraduate research opportunities, and adopting effective mentoring practices. And we link to effective mentoring practices and recruiting practices on bpcnet.org. And the last one that has come up a few times is a really good activity, particularly for departments, if they're not already tracking their BPC data, is to track your BPC data. And again, what data you track is going to vary by institutions. For some, looking at demographics disaggregated by race, gender, and disability between CS1 and CS2 is going to be really impactful. Others, that's not going to be the case. I love that Luther is providing links as we're going for these various activities. On point. And then I'll highlight that these first 4 things, if you can do these as an institution, if you can get faculty to do these as individual, they're much easier to sustain. Once I've changed my pedagogy or my curriculum, I'm probably going to stick with it. And that's really what we need, is these structural changes to our institutions to promote BPC in the long haul. So bpcnet.org has just tons of resources for you. I hope you're so excited about all that there is on there that you're like excited / overwhelmed. But really, we've tried to do a good job of helping you say, not just use the internet to figure out the best practices, but go here. So resources on bpcnet.org, you can click on selecting BPC activities, link in the chat. And it is cataloged by these different categories of activities. So we've separated out student retention from outreach and recruiting. And again, I want to have you think about focusing on that retention piece. What are the ways in which we're creating an inclusive environment that's supporting retention and thriving, even if you are not yet reaching out to try and increase the participation and do outreach? Think about your sphere of influence. And that list on the previous slide is pretty slim. So if you go to that selecting BPC activities, we've got a sentence or two that describes what those are. For each of those things, there is a hand-curated set of resources that we think are going to be easiest to dive in and use right away. So I've clicked on expanding research opportunities here, and you can see that in that section, there's a little bit of description, including an academic article that explains why undergraduate research opportunities are really important. And then it lists 4 resources with links about how you might get involved as a department, as a faculty member. What are the concrete steps I should take? And here are 4 really helpful resources. There's a ton of resources on bpcnet.org. Those have recommended activities that we think are easy to get started in. There's the activity template, so you can try and catalog what are all the things we're currently doing. And then that brainstorming document, this document that I think is helpful for brainstorming on NC Wit. And again, for every activity you want to ask, does this take advantage of our departmental members' skills and spheres of influence, and what's the expected impact? Okay, I'm going to end there, and we will go to some questions.